Hey, so for this one, I headed down to Point Pleasant, West Virginia for the 24 Hours of Appalachia Mothman's Revenge Moto Weekend Rally. The Moto Weekend takes place in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, which is home of the Mothman legend. If you don't know anything about that, just go ahead and search it. It's a pretty interesting one. Here's the Mothman statue here. Everyone getting their photos, and for whatever reason, everyone likes to stick some coins in the butt. I don't know why, but there it is. So this is the day before the rally. Everyone meets over in town, lines their bikes up. There's a little bit of a tech inspection, and then you head down to the Point Pleasant River Museum, where you do registration, get yourself signed in, and they also give you your race numbers. They don't really care where you put them as long as they're visible, but after all this is said and done, there's a riders meeting. And until the riders meeting, basically everyone just hangs out and gets to know each other, talks about bikes. Definitely had some very unique bikes show up. This guy's riding his Triumph. Basically just threw some knobbies on there and he's good to go. There's basically every kind of bike here, from your, DR 650, KTM 500s. Here's a 640 KTM Adventure. And then there was this bike, which is probably the most unique one here. This guy was definitely a badass for running this. I cannot imagine it was easy to run. So here's a riders meeting where they're going over the rules and what to expect, and a couple little challenge sections to expect, and what to watch out for. It was pretty simple meeting. Big emphasis on not speeding, because this is a rally, not a race. I guess they've had some issues in the past with people speeding past residents on gravel roads, 50, 60 miles an hour on a gravel road, and the people that live there complain. The start of these are pretty uneventful. Basically, they just let bikes out every 30 seconds, and then you're on the route. Here's me having trouble with my GPS because it was new to me and I didn't know how to use it. But it doesn't take long for us to get outside of town and hit some really nice country roads, and shortly after that, probably within the first 15-20 miles, you're on gravel. And there is a ton of gravel and off-road on this. Definitely some pavement connecting, but there was a lot of off-road. A lot more than I really expected. I think the creek crossings was a little bit of a defining feature of this ride. There was a ton. I expected 5 or 6, but there had to be 50 easily. Most of them were pretty shallow. A couple of them were definitely a little deep, but nothing that your average adventure bike can't handle. So I guess I'll talk a little bit about why I decided to make this video. Whenever I was signing up for this race, I found out about it through James Wright of Wright Cycles. He also has a podcast called Tall Boys and Track Masters. It's great podcast, worth listening to. Lots of industry news, local stuff, local events, whatever. If you're in the West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Maryland, Virginia, this kind of Appalachian region. But whenever I was looking to sign up for this race, there was basically no information out there showing what to expect. So hopefully, watching this video gives you an idea of, what to expect, and the type of riding, and also how everything works. Here's also one of the more unique bikes here. I think it's the first time I've ever seen one in the wild. It's the Cove. Everyone likes to call it the Covey. Who knows how to say it. But the 450, definitely a cool bike. And it is a dirt bike, so there he is passing me. Not really knowing what to expect for this race, I decided to ride my Tenere 700 because 600 miles, it's a long time sitting in the saddle, and I opted to take the more comfortable bike. Looking back on this, I would absolutely do it on my Tenere again, but for the next one, I'm going to be bringing my Husky FE501s just because I could pick up the pace a little bit in the trail sections and the muddy spots and the more technical spots. That being said, my Tenere does have stock suspension. If it had aftermarket suspension, I'd probably be more willing to ride it again. With the stock suspension, you really had to be careful. It just, you get in trouble really quick. You hit one big bump, and if there's a second one, you're basically bouncing off the road. Here's some guys just taking a break, maybe almost 100 miles in. I looked like somebody wrecked, but I think they were all right. They gave me a thumbs up, so I kept moving. Here is the first checkpoint. Basically, all the checkpoints are like this. They're close to a gas station. There's a couple tents set up. You pull in, they take your number, they write down your time, and you get gas, eat some food, whatever, keep going. They give you a little snack here, and yeah, they're very simple, nothing complicated. You just stop and then go.
Thank you. Good? Cool.
In the days leading up to the race, we had quite a bit of rain, so everything was muddy and wet, but the water crossings weren't really affected. There was 2 spots where they gave us bypasses because the water was definitely too deep. The one, they said if you're on a venture bike, don't bother. The other one, they said everybody should skip it. This here was something that came up a few times was, if you live in the country, this is something you see. It's just these random gas lines running through the woods. There was a couple spots where I saw them, and that will definitely put you on the ground if you hit it wrong with wet tires. None of the mud holes on this route were bad. There was definitely some that I wasn't attempting, and I tried to get around as best I could, but you never know with some of these mud holes. They just, they look fine and they're 4 feet deep, so it's best just to go around them. Side-by-side gangs here. Saw this a couple times on the route. Definitely something worth watching out for. I noticed quite a few bikes on this ride were running more like 50/50 adventure bike tires. I would highly recommend something more on the knobby side if you're gonna do one of these rides. If it was dry, I would have been fine with the 50/50, but I would definitely opt for the more aggressive tires. And this here, one of the highlights, I didn't really realize it at the time, but this is down along the New River. And we were working our way up to the gorge. It was, one of the more beautiful spots of the ride. No matter how many times I cross the New River Gorge Bridge, it's always great. It's always better on a bike. this region, Fayetteville, if you've never been to this part of West Virginia, it's definitely worth a long weekend. Do some camping, hiking, just hanging out. There's good food, good beer, and it's just a, outdoor center in West Virginia. I think everyone on this ride was relieved. There was, the days leading up to it, I said it was raining a bunch, and it was looking like this was going to be a ton of rain the whole ride. But it turned out to be a beautiful day, and there was really no rain until the last couple hours of the ride. This is one of those off-road sections I was mentioning that if I had the Husky, I feel like I could have really turned it up. Again, the stock Tenere suspension is just so bad that it can't handle super rocky, rough terrain like this. It just gets out of sorts. On the Husky, I feel like I could easily close to double my speed through these trails. Here's one of these mud holes I was not risking it in. On these trails, the side-by-sides like to get in there and hammer on the gas. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it does dig them out. So here we came across Jed, who was, I thought he was stuck, but then he's like, no, there's a guy down there in the valley. And I look, and this guy just hit this little gully, and it kicked him off the road. And he thought maybe if I go down here, I can easily ride back out. But ended up just being a ton of peanut butter mud down here. So me and two other guys I was riding with, sorry I don't know anybody's name, but we all came down to the bottom and just helped him get out. They were trying to winch his bike up because of the mud. As soon as they would lift it up, the mud would just slide him back down. So with four of us, we were able to undo the winch line and just lift up the bike and kind of move it to where it needed to be. Took us a few minutes and helped him get out. And you can see there, he's basically just in this soupy, rocky mud, buried. So once we got him onto a little bit more solid ground, he went ahead and threw his gear on, helmet on, and just hammered it. Definitely made a new trail on this one. These big adventure bikes get a whole lot easier to move around when you have a couple people.
Ready? Hell yeah, guys! Teamwork! I'll definitely be on that. No problem.
If you like riding mountain roads too, lots of twisty turns and stuff, there's a ton of that along this route. There's not a straight road in West Virginia, so that was a lot of fun also. I wouldn't say there was a single bad road on this whole route. This one is probably one of the wider river creek crossings there was. It wasn't deep, but definitely slick. So one of the big things I was really worried about on this ride was I've never really rode at night other than just getting it home. Definitely never rode off-road at night, and there's definitely going to be some nighttime riding. But once I got to it, it was completely fine. If that's something you're worried about, if you have good lights on your bike, it really highlights what's in front of you, and it kind of gives you like shadows behind any rocks that stick up or any dips in the road. If you ask me, it kind of made it easier. And the other thing is, you can see if someone else is coming around a corner from the other way. There was a tree that crossed the road. With all the heavy rains, I think there was a little bit more trees down than was expected. And because they pre-ran the route, and there was some down between, a couple days before and then when the rally was. My first nighttime creek crossing, just taking your time, figuring it out. In the riders meeting, one of the things that was talked about was this road that was also a creek, and they made a point to say, yes, you are on the route. This is definitely the way you're supposed to be going. And I thought maybe, oh, okay, well, you're just gonna ride through a creek for a couple 100 feet, but it's a very normal situation when you're trail riding. But this one was different. This one was it was long. I don't know how long, but close to a mile plus of riding up a creek, and it was the road. There was nowhere else to go. It was kind of unmistakable that this was the route. So we dip into it here in just a second. Once we got in it, it was definitely pretty fun. One of the highlights of the off-road sections. It came at a really great time. It's pretty late at night here, and midnight-ish, and I think everyone was starting to get pretty worn out. So coming across a nice challenge like this gave you some adrenaline, and really just a fun trail. Woke you up, broke up the monotony of some of the gravel sections. You get up here, you're like, cool, that was fun, and then there's more. Just keep going and going and going. This spot here looked really deep, and from previous riders going through it was a little cloudy, so I couldn't see. It was just glassy water, and definitely deep, but not unmanageable. That was one of the more challenging sections. There was just a couple ledges, and on the whole river, water, creek, road section, that was definitely the hardest part. And here we are back on the road. This is me trying to get video of hitting 500 miles, which is pretty exciting. Knowing that most of it is done, you only have about 100 miles left, and a little second wind coming in right there. So another one of the challenge sections that they called out in the riders meeting was this road. It was just, decently long, and it was just peanut butter mud. And if you've ever experienced peanut butter mud, it just cakes the tires. It's like riding on ice. It's deep, and like you just can't really find super good traction in it. It's just slick no matter what. Well, right at the top of a little uphill, there was a downed tree. And I came across this guy who was really struggling. He had been there for about half an hour, and the tree was on a slope, and there was just a big hill right there. So he was really nervous to kind of try to get it over. Well, after some time, we managed to work it out. A couple other guys showed up, and everybody just kind of helped everybody over the tree. But that wasn't the only spot on this route that was challenging. There was a couple of these really deep mud holes, and then there was a second set of trees down. With the rains that have been happening, these trees must have just fallen, because Jed didn't know that they were actually down on the route. So, it's just one of those things. It's overlanding, adventure riding. You just deal with it as it comes. But this is another one of those spots that, I feel like if I would have been on the Husky, it would have just taken me a fifth of the time to get through, especially the way I had to get around these second set of trees. And there's those trees right there in front of you, and you can see they're big. They're too big to hop. It's a steep hill on the left and a cliff on the right that goes down to who knows where. And there's already been a landslide in this section previously, so everything was soft and slick. So I decided to just ride up the hill to get over the first one, and then the second one, I was just gonna kind of slide the bike underneath. It's something, we've all done on dirt bikes before. A little bit different on the big, heavy adventure bike. So got the bike kind of in position, and when I tried to drag it, I think the foot peg must have been stuck on a root or something like that. So I just started the bike up on its side, leaned it up enough to get the tire on the ground and just let it spin itself under. That worked enough that it was off the root and I could drag it just a little bit and then stand the bike up. This all happened with about 40 miles left in the route, and I was smoked at this point. I just didn't have a ton of energy, lifting bikes, picking up my own bike, dragging bikes, and helping everyone else through. It was definitely a challenge, but if you ask me, this is kind of the good stuff. I don't know, I guess I'm one of those people, the more it sucks, the more I like it, so. But yeah, made it through, and sure enough, as soon as we made it through, get back on a nice little gravel section, and it starts to spit and rain. This was, for me, the worst part is the rain. I don't mind getting wet, but the rain created fog, and then my goggles were fogging, and I couldn't see anything. Anyways, I only had like 30 miles left, so I just took my time, managed it back in. I ended up completing the whole route in 19 hours. Gave them my times at the final checkpoint, and then made my way back to the hotel to sleep. It was about 3 a.m. and it was great. I loved every minute of it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks, everybody.